Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. One of our machines has made its way off into the world and it has finally returned home. It's been 8 long years since we sold this beautiful Gottlieb College Queens pinball machine. And the gentleman brought it back the other day and said it needed some work and dropped it off, and I figured we would do a video and we'll figure it out together. What do you think about that? He didn't tell us. I wasn't here when he dropped it off. He did not tell us what's wrong with it. He just said it needs some service. So, I don't know. We'll see what we can service. Now, the first thing I notice is that all of the score reels are on 0. So, at least the score reels are resetting. Maybe it's not kicking the ball out. Now you may be thinking, why is it that color? This thing had a really bad cabinet on it. The art was all screwed up. I can't remember if they'd already repainted it or what, but we just painted it two-tone to clean it up. And we sold this pretty affordably. The prices are going up on the machines. This one though, we probably sold for probably 900 bucks, something like that, back when we sold it. And we're a retail store, so you know. Somebody had painted the apron there too. We didn't do that. And then they had made this beautiful little sign here for it. Look, it's got a sheen to it too. So yeah, we didn't do all the cosmetic stuff. I think we did paint it though. I always thought this was a cool game because of how bored the girls look on the playfield. They're like, yeah, whatever. Sure, why not? Okay, so let's try to turn it on. I've got her plugged in. Nothing happened when I plugged it in. Let's see what's going on here with it. There's a switch. So the switch has turned on the light, the game over, and the lights on the back glass. What's up, buddy? Player 1 is illuminated, 2, 3, and 4 are not. And on these it says game over down here. Now it also says tilt on the back glass. So all of that is how it should be, I believe. It has 0 credits. Let's see what happens when I hit the start button. Uh-huh. Now I see the problem. So let's kick the ball out. It says 10 times value when lit. This is blinking. And that is blinking. So, something is holding the score motor on. So, let's look at the schematic. Well, let me try to open it up. It'd be the quickest way is to just look and see what relays are on. Some of this looks familiar. Alright, so I remember these. We're hearing the very targets reset. And if we look down here, boy, the thing was dirty inside. Add ball count relay, on and off. And the very target reset relay, on and off. So that's what's going on. Let's look at the schematics and see if we can figure out why, oh why, would it be doing this. Alright, so we're checking out a copy of the schematics here. A good place to get these is from the Pinball Resource, pbresource.com. That's a really good mom and pop company that actually has the rights to all of the Gottlieb reproduction and trademark stuff, right? So they make authorized copies of the original schematics if you no longer have the ones that came with your machine. Gottlieb was very nice to give us all the schematics whenever you bought the machine, but if you bought it over the years, they would like you to purchase a replacement set, which is like, I think they're $12 or something like that. It's no big deal. And that's kind of how they keep in business to keep making reproduction parts. So, check them out, pbresource.com. And that guy, by the way, is not Gottlieb. He just pays money for the right to make reproductions of the Gottlieb stuff, which is all trademarked and all of that. So anyway, first thing we're going to look at, the left vary target release and the right vary target release. If I remember correctly, and it seems to suggest it here, they kind of stay engaged unless the D drops out. And so that's what's going on. So the D relay there is the vary target reset relay. So the reason, of course, that we're seeing those flap back and forth is because D is flapping back and forth. So let's see what turns on D, the vary target reset relay. So D is right here, and it is held on by the right vary target and the left vary target. When they are at the 0 position, so when they're all the way in, they will turn on the D relay. So if they're both reset to 0, the D comes on and stays on, and then it holds itself on here, right? And all of that is connected to this switch here, a switch on the motor at 2B. So what's going on is, since the score motor is turning, every time it gets to 2B, that switch is opening, and that's making that relay turn off, and then it turns back on as soon as that switch closes again, and turn off and on, off and on, off and on. So all of that to say, all of that is correct. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Okay, so the other one that keeps pulsing is the P relay, which is the add ball count unit relay. Add ball count unit relay. So we've done a bunch of videos on how the ball count unit works in these. There's just a lot of stuff going on, but basically part of its startup sequence involves that. So it's trying to turn on this relay over and over and over again, which is a little weird. So here's why it's weird. The way that works is power comes up through here. The S relay is the start relay, aptly named. So the start relay, once you start the game, which we did by hitting start, it sends power up this way, right? It connects the power over. Look how they've drawn circles in this area. Whoever had this copy of the schematics had already done this. By the way, this is not a copy from the Pinball resource. Theirs doesn't have stuff scribbled all over it like this. I don't know where this came from, but whoever had it, they've been looking in this area. So power would connect over here if the start relay was on, and if the QB relay is not pulled in. So the QB relay is the game over relay. So if the game is not over, I believe I've got that right. Whatever. If that switch is closed, and as this switch closes, now the motor turning as we're seeing, it's going to be opening and closing that switch constantly. Right? The trough switch, the ball has to be touching the trough switch. That is not the switch, the out-hole switch. So you've got the out-hole switch, you've got the runway switch, and you've got the trough switch. And it's all different depending on the year and the company and all that. But the trough switch is actually the one that the ball hits as it's traveling from the out-hole when it's kicked out over to the runway, the shooter lane, right? So this switch is normally open. The ball goes over it, it closes it, and when it closes it, it turns on the P relay. So it should turn that relay on and then back off. So what's our problem? Well, how is it doing that over and over again if the ball shot out into the shooter lane and is sitting in the shooter lane? Nothing's hitting that trough switch. So there's no other way for power to get here. Now you can see this switch here on the P relay. So what that means is when it turns on, it holds itself on with its switch on itself until this switch opens at motor 2B. So that should open and turn it off. And that's what's happening, because if you look, that P relay is coming on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. But how is it turning back on? It shouldn't be able to turn on without that switch being closed. Yeah, that switch is going to keep closing, and yeah, that switch is going to stay closed, right? But it shouldn't do that over and over and over again. So my theory is that the trough switch is screwed up. So that's the out-hole switch and the out-hole kicker. Now you saw it kicked the ball out, This is the trough switch. It's literally in the trough between the out hole and the shooter lane. And sure enough, it's stuck closed. That whole thing doesn't really look that great. So let me see if I can figure out why it's binding. Why would it be stuck closed? What's the deal? Okay, so you saw it was actually physically stuck, and when I messed with it, it was very rough to move. Like it didn't want to come back out. So the way these work, and they're all like this, and they're like this on the Williams and Bally games as well. The way these work is it's just a piece of wire, and up here on the top, you can see it's sticking up, so when the ball rolls over it, it hits that little wire. And it's just a piece of wire that's bent around, and it clips through the back there. So what I did was I messed with it and it freed up, but then I put a little oil on it too. Now usually you don't have to oil these, but since this one is giving us trouble, I figured why not. And then it also has this place here that is kind of like a little guide, and so that could have been the problem. Maybe it was stuck there. It could be that this machine just sat a long time. And that rusted up a little bit. I don't know, but I cleaned it up a little bit with a file, and then I put just a little bit of oil on it. You don't want to put a ton, because if the oil gets on the blade, it might roll down to the contacts and short them together like basically it was doing a second ago. So as the ball rolls over, it will make that close, and that's how it's supposed to be. So just for giggles, let's see if they're all like that. So this is one. The out lane over here on the right. So let's see if it does the same thing. No, it moves just fine. You can see that this thing has seen some weather. Look at just the dirt down at the bottom. I don't believe the customer did that or anything. It was probably like that whenever we had it before. It just was a machine that has seen some use over the years. There's stuff missing, like the tilt bob is missing. Okay, I think that's probably going to make it where the thing will play now. The only other thing I want to see is why was the score motor continuously running? So here's the score motor. Any of these switches here will short power to it and make it run. So this switch is, once the score motor has left its home position, this switch keeps it running until it gets back to the home position. Just make sure that it makes it an entire circuit. And so the Y relay, if it pulls on, it will start the score motor. The Y relay is the 50-point relay. So they need that so that the score motor can make it tap 5 times. The Q relay. So the Q relay is the 300-point relay, same type of idea. It needs the score motor to move so that a switch can close 3 times. And then the P relay, so that's the one that kept closing, so it would have been continuously turning on the score motor. Now, the interesting thing about this is the add ball count. The P relay, what it does is it it's the add ball count unit relay. So why wasn't that adding the ball count unit all the way up until it went into game over? Why did it just do it over and over and over again? Well, it's up here. So this looks like the add ball count unit relay, but it's not. That's the add ball count unit coil. It's a complete difference. The add ball count unit relay is a P, right? So the difference is this is the physical coil on the ball count unit, and the P is the relay, which happens to have a coil that turns on this coil, right, eventually. So why is it closing over and over again, and it's not actually adding a position on the ball count unit? Well, this switch would have been closing each time that the P relay closes, and then this switch would have been closing as the motor turned over, right? But then you have this. This is the ZB relay. The Z, do I have that right? Yeah, the ZB relay is the first ball relay. So this stays open because they want you to be able to start more than a one-player game and all this kind of stuff. So at the very beginning of the game, it won't advance the add ball count unit. That first time that it kicks the ball out, they don't want it to go from ball 1 to ball 2. They want it to stay on ball 1. The next time that it kicks the ball out, they want it to go from ball 1 to ball 2. Right? So because that thing was open, that P relay could close over and over again, and it wouldn't advance the ball count unit. Now, what closes that? As soon as you score some points, that closes. This is drawn. These schematics are drawn with the game started and the ball in the out lane on the first ball, first player. So that's where we're at. So that explains why the score motor was continuously running. So now, since we fixed that one little switch, we should be able to put it back in there, start the game, it should kick the ball out, and then stop. All right, let's try it again, see if it likes that better. Click. That's how you want it. All right, let's see if the flippers work. Ooh, they seem strong. And the lights aren't blinking anymore. Of course, it was doing that because the score motor turns. They designed this interesting thing into the schematics, and they went all out of their way to do it. Maybe they had to, I don't know, but see how this says 300 when lit, and that was blinking off as the score motor turned? It seems that the reason that they did that was because you can't actually score the points while the score motor's turning. So like if I was to hit that while I'm already scoring some points and the score motor's turning, it's not going to give me 300 points because it's halfway through its little cycle. It just ain't going to work. So they turned the light off, I suppose, so because you're not going to get those points, and they don't want to advertise to you that you're going to get points you're not going to get. Okay, so let me set up the tripod. We'll play it for a few minutes and just see what else doesn't work right. I didn't get my 300 points when lit. I got... Boy, it sounds good. Kickers are decent. I got my 300 that time. Oh yeah, this is the one where it keeps adding. This is so cool. So when it started, only this one was illuminated. Then on ball 2, these were illuminated. Woo, ha! And then on ball 3, these two are illuminated. It's got this set up in the schematics to make it do that. That's really cool. So this is ball 3. I didn't get my 300 again. We got to mess with that. What fun is it if you can't get your 300? All right, so ball 4. The 2 on the outside are lit. Look at the lights on the bottom of the playfield too. Everything's becoming available. And finally, ball 5. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 lit. $2,289 points, and at the end of the game, it turned all the other lamps back on. Okay, so let's mess with the scoring up at the top. I think there will be a simple explanation. It's going to be an easy one, I think. Let me see if I can get it where you can see it, so you'll be happy. I've noticed some of you are never happy, but most of you seem like decent people. All right, so we're going to just mess with it. You can kind of tell the points because there are two different chimes. So if it's giving 10s, you're going to hear doon, 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 doon. And if it gives 300, it's going to go ding, ding, ding. It's real loud for some reason. I don't know why. Okay. So that's the 50. It's the 50, and then you get the ding at the end because we went from 50, added 50, so we got to 100. 50. 50. 50. Okay, it worked that time. I wonder if it's because I touched it so strongly. No, that's working. Well, it wasn't working earlier. Okay, ball 2. Now see, for ball 2 it has changed, the ones that are lit. 50, 50, 50, 50, 300, 300. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's worked its way out. You know, there are kinks. Okay, different lineup. 50, 50, 50, 50. Aha! Aha! I caught you, you sucker! That one ain't working. Okay, so it's important to remember where we're at. We're on ball 3, and it's the second rollover. And it ain't working right. That should be 300. Okay, let's try this one. Same thing. It's not working right either. Okay, so the two that are supposed to score 300 on ball 3 don't work right. Y'all remind me of that. This has a really unique way that they made that work. That's why it's important. So let's try these. And the reason I'm checking all of them is because I'm just making sure that none of these are scoring 300 when they should be scoring 50. 50, 50, 50, 50, 300, 300. So ball 4 is working properly. And these say 300 when lit on the edge here on the side. You can't see right now. Ooh. Ooh, they also did not give us 300. Okay. So now we're going to have to mess with that too. Maybe the answer will become apparent whenever we find out the problem up here. Okay, so 50, 50, 300, 300, 300, 300, and then let me try the bottom ones. Okay, yep. So ball 3 was the problem. And then down here, that's given 50, but it says 300. That one's given 300. This says 50 points or 300 when lit, so it's pointing at these rollovers. Okay. So you see what's going on. This one should be giving us 300, but it's giving us 50. This one should be giving us 300, and it is. This one should be giving us 300, but it's giving us 50. And this one should be giving us 300, and it is. We've also got 100 when lit, 100 when lit, 100 when lit, and 100 when lit, but it's not lit. Okay, so that one's just a bulb. All right. So all that makes sense to me. So let me show you in the schematics, and we ought to be able to figure it out. This is going to be like one switch somewhere. So the way you figure stuff like this out is you pay attention to the light bulbs. The light bulbs on the schematics will show you how it all works. Okay, so here is some of the things listed on the control bank. So the control bank is that big long line of relays in the bottom of the cabinet. And so see these ones that say score, feature, control, relay. There's a 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B. So they're going to be calling it that for second ball, third ball, fourth ball, fifth ball. So that's how they're doing it. They're dropping relays at the end of the ball, which is making that happen. So how do those turn on? Let me see if I can find where it says those do their thing. Let me find them on the schematics here. There's got to be somewhere where it shows what drops those. Here we go. So the 2B relay. Now see how it has a switch on itself that's closed? 2B, and then there's a switch on itself. So what that means is when this falls, that switch will disconnect, and then it will kill power to itself. That's because it's on a relay bank. So once it drops and opens, it just stays like that. So whatever powers that, they don't want it to just continuously powered. It'll burn the coil up. So they just cut it off. They put a switch on itself that cuts off. Once it's open, it's going to stay open until the entire relay bank is reset. So what makes it fall? Well, as long as it hasn't been fallen before, when the ball count unit gets to the 4th position, it will knock it down. Now this is a little bit confusing. The 0 position of the ball count unit is player 1, ball 1. The first position, the 1 position of the ball count unit is player 2, ball 1. The 2 position is player 3, ball 1. And then the 3 position is player 4, ball 1. The 4 position is player 1, ball 2. So so basically it steps through each player. So there are 4 steps from ball 1 to ball 2. I hope that makes sense. And the reason for that is if you're playing a 2-player game, you're going to be at ball count position 0, and then you're going to go up to position 1, and then you're going to skip steps 2 and 3 and go to position 4. So you're going to skip the 3rd and the 4th player. And that's just how they've designed it, right? So when it gets to ball 2, which is what this represents, it is going to drop 2B, okay? And when it gets to position 8, which is ball 3, it's going to drop 3B, just like we thought. When it gets to 12, which is ball 4, it's going to drop 4B. And when it gets to 16, which is ball 5, it's going to drop 5B. Now, interestingly enough, is this little thing up here. This is the 3 to 5 ball adjustment plug. Now, there's different things that it'll do, but one of the things that it does is if it's on 5 ball, this is connected as we're talking about. But if it's on 3 ball, this one, 2B, is going to be connected just from the start. So as soon as you start the game, 2B is going to drop as if you're on ball 2. Right? Now, also worth noting that 3B cannot drop unless 2B is on. So look how they've designed this. This is the type of brilliant stuff that just blows my mind. When it's on ball 1, there is a second wiper on the ball count unit that is connected to the 8th position, which is where 3B is. But the only way it can drop is if 2B has already dropped. So at the beginning of the game, that's connected, but it can't do anything because 2B isn't on. All right? So what happens is, if it's on 5 ball, it's going to step through all of them and blah, 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 right? Now, once this gets up to position 4, which is ball 2, this one will have moved over to here. But it can't drop unless 3 has dropped, right? So it's fairly brilliant. So let's say you set it on 3 ball, though. Well, that means that 2B drops immediately. It drops immediately at the beginning. And then since this wire is here and 2B has dropped, it's also going to drag 3B down with it at the same time. So 2B and 3B are both going to drop. So then it moves up, to ball 2. Well, this one isn't going to do anything because 2B has already dropped. But by that time, this one will be down to here. And since 3B has already dropped, 4B will drop. So they have to have that in there because under 5-ball, it's going to do the same thing. But they don't want that to drop on the 5-ball game unless 3B is already dropped. They're using this switch to ensure that it only does it on a 5-ball game, on a 3-ball game, but it doesn't do it on a 5-ball game. And then you understand it does it each time. So they have set it up so with just one little plug, by just shorting one coil together, one line together, and by adding one extra wiper on the ball count unit, they have ensured that it gives you a completely different setup if it's 3-ball or 5-ball. So those are the coils that control what lights are on and what they score. Okay, so if you look at the lights, it kind of tells you what's going on. So there's the number. Where are we? Look how they're like multiplexing. So there is. I'm looking for the rollovers. Here we go. The number 4 rollover light, the number 3 rollover light, the number 2 rollover light, the number 1 rollover light, the number 6 rollover light, and do I even see the number 5 roll? There's the number 5 rollover light. Number 5 rollover light. So the number 2 and the number 5 are hooked together, etc., etc. So normally power comes through, and again this is drawn at the first ball. The number 4 rollover light is turned on, and the number 1 ball and play light is on. Okay, so then you trip the 2B. So whenever you trip the 2B, this is still the same. So the number 4 rollover light stays on, but then now this one trips, and it makes the number 3 rollover light come on. So that's 4 and 3. So then you trip 3B, so it cuts all that off, but it sends power down to here, which, since this is tripped, the number 3 is on still, and then it comes down here, and it turns on the number 5. And you can see how they've just got it all crossed over itself. And remember, once these drop, they stay dropped too. Okay, so then the 3B tripped here as well. So you get the whole point. So it turns on different lights. I can remember specifically going over this in a video on College Queens before. So the other thing to realize is that there are 2 switches on each of the rollovers. So the top rollovers, there's 6 of them, have these 6 switches that are all identical. And the purpose of those and the side rollovers is to turn on the Y relay. The Y relay, is that Y or is that, it looks like a Y to me. Yeah, the Y relay is the 50-point relay. So if you roll over either one of the side rollovers or those 5 top rollovers, you will turn on the 50-point relay and get 50 points. The only way that doesn't happen is if the Q relay has opened. So the Q relay is the 300-point relay. So if you're getting 50, if you roll over the switch, you're either going to get the 50 points, or if the 300-point relay has opened up, you're not going to get 50 points, and presumably you will get the 300-point relay instead, which is this one, right? So on the ones where it's lit up that we should be getting 300, but we're getting 50, for whatever reason, the 300-point relay is never coming on, and just by default, we're getting our 50. So it's almost like a fail-safe that they've designed in, right? So what makes the Q relay come on? Well, there is a second switch on the rollovers. So you can see that the issue is, remember I said, well, maybe I didn't hit it hard enough, or maybe I didn't roll over it hard enough. You can see that if by chance you closed one of the switches, the 50-point switch, it would turn on the 50-point relay. if it didn't see that you had also turned on the 300-point switch. So some of these, like let's look at this one. So the number 5 rollover. For it to work, you have to roll over it, and at the same time you're going to be rolling over this one. So it's going to make both of those work at the same time. But you're going to roll over it, and if 3B has thrown, and if 4B has not thrown, it is going to turn on the Q relay. The Q relay is going to open this up so you don't get your 50 points. Instead, you'll get your 300 points. See what I'm saying? So if we were rolling over it and we didn't get the 50 points, that would mean that this relay is coming on and opening the switch so it kills our 50 points. But for whatever reason, we're not getting our 300. So the problem has got to be either this switch, or we didn't hit the switch hard enough to where it did both of them. It's probably just a dirty switch, you know. Now the one on the, you saw how the one on the left was telling me, like, oh yeah, I should show you that too. There are the switches on the side as well that are doing the same thing. Side rollover, bottom rollover. So there's 2 switches on the bottom rollovers because they can change. There's the 2 side rollovers. Are there 2 more? They have a different way of doing it, but basically it's the same thing. Right, so you saw the one, no matter how many times I hit it, it said, and the one is on the top on ball 3, it said that, hey, this should be giving you 300 points, but it did not give me 300 points. But then when we switched it to another setup, the same one that was supposed to give me 300 before, I believe, did give me 300. So we've either got bad switches on here that are dirty, or we've got dirty switches here that can't be touched, can't be done. So it would be interesting to see if we can set it up in such a way that the switch scores the 300 points in one position but not in the other. I think we did do that on the 5th ball, didn't we? So the switch is capable of giving us 300, which means that this must be fine. It's just it didn't on that one setup. So now I'm just going to check the switches by seeing if there's any of them that never give you 300 points. So this one gives me 300. So switch 4 definitely does. Oh, I didn't score enough points for it to advance us. I can show you that on the schematics too. So it should still give us 300, but now this one should. And it does. So both of the inner ones definitely will. Okay, so now we're on to these. That one's fine. That one's fine. Wasn't that where we were screwed up before? Yeah, so they're all working. It's just, it's going to be switches that need cleaned a little bit. Let's try these down here again, though. Yeah, that one never does. So that one never does, and that one never does. So if we look closely at this switch, see how one is gapped closer than the other one? So if just the top one closes, you get your 50 points. Now if just the bottom one closes, you get your 300 points. So it's this interesting situation where they're racing to decide whether to get you the 300 points or the 50 points. So there must be some kind of timing involved in it that would be interesting to figure out. But you can see how if we do hit the, since it's set up for 300 points, if we hit the 300 point switch, it does it how it's supposed to. But if we hit the 50 point switch first, even though it's hitting both, so if I watch how both close. So that time it worked. It's like it's a timing thing. So I'd be interested in seeing how they get the 300 to jump in front of the 50. All right, so we've already determined that the Q and the Y relay both turn on the score motor. So at the beginning of the race, At the beginning of the race, both of them theoretically will turn on at the same time. So we're here at ball 5 actually, so 4 has already dropped, right? So it would do it on ball 4 or ball 5. So when we roll over that left bottom rollover, and they are coming from the same spot, it turns on the Y relay, which is the 50-point relay. So the 50-point relay is turned on. And then at the same time, it also turns on, because this has dropped, the Q relay. So they both get turned on at exactly the same time. But as soon as that happens, this switch is going to open up, which was going to make the 50-point relay drop out. So the only way this is not going to work, and it's, you know, one side works fine every time. Now the side rollovers are the same thing's going on. One side works fine every time, the other side doesn't. And as you can see, the only difference in them is the switch on the actual rollover. They all connect to the same exact spot. They're tied together on this side of the switches, and they're tied together on that side of the switches. This switch works and this one doesn't, so it has to be the actual switch. But it's just, this is fascinating to me the way they did it. So Q and Y turn on at the same time if you score 300. But it immediately, the 300 one will immediately kill the 50-point one. And it's got to do it quick. So this is the 10-point relay, which the 50-point relay is going to use to score 50 points. And this is the 100-point relay, which the 300-point relay is going to use to score 300 points, right? So the way that it is going to do it is, here is the switch on the Y relay. So the Y relay has dropped because we rolled over that switch. It's going to give us 50 points. Here it goes. And the way it does it is whenever the switch closes at motor 1A. As soon as it closes, you get in your 50 points. Your first of the 50 points, right? Now on the other one, the L relay, the way it gets it is as soon as this, if the Q relay is closed, it is also going to do it as soon as the switch on motor 1A goes in, right? So how long does it have to drop out that 50-point relay? The only thing it can possibly be is the switch, because the ball rolls over it, or my finger rolls over it when we were cheating it. And then as soon as you're off that switch, it's no longer getting power, right? So they have this little design where they hold themselves on. So the Y relay holds itself on with a switch on itself back here until that switch opens, right? And then the Q relay holds itself on through a switch on itself the exact same way. So they both will lock themselves on. So what's got to be going on is that the 300-point relay never actually pulls in, because if it did, it would kill that 50-point relay, right? And the reason it's not pulling in is because the one switch is closing every time, and the other one closes, doesn't completely close, or is dirty or whatever. So I think if we just clean those switches, it'll fix it. But let me show you the timing on that switch on 1A that actually scores the points. So they don't draw it on the schematics, on these early Gottlieb schematics, the same as they did on some of the Bally's, but I'll just show it to you on the actual machine. So this is the switch that is going to score the 5 times. So it's going to, if the Y relay is in, when that switch closes, it's going to give you 10 points. It's going to turn on the 10-point relay. And it's going to do it 5 different times as it turns from home position to home position, because with the Y relay in, it has started the score motor. So I'll show you that how it's doing that. It's position motor 1A. All right, so here's the score motor. This is the front of the cabinet. It's the back of the cabinet. But we're looking at it from the side. These are numbered or lettered depending on their height up this this score motor. Now on the bottom, there is a cam with those little bumps on it, right? That's usually called like the impulse cam, because it's going to close switches as those little bumps rotate around. So I showed you how the score motor starts
a relay will start the score motor, and then it will run to its next home position because of a switch on the score motor that keeps it powered. So that switch is this one right here. It's right inside here. So I've got it turned off, but as soon as this turns off its home position, it's going to close that switch, which will allow it to keep turning. Now at the same time that that happened, let me go back again to the next one. So we're at the home position. As soon as it comes off of it, it's going to close the switch so that it keeps running until it gets to the next home position, and then when it drops out, it will stop. Okay? Well, at the same time that that's going on, the switch down at the bottom is the one that's going to give us our 10 points. So it'll be right here, closed. That gives us 10 points, and then it moves on, 20 points, moves on, 30 points, moves on, 40 points, moves on, 50 points, and then we get back to home and the switch opens up and it stops. So we just got 50 points because they have the switch wired to that bottom one. But they're using the same exact switch to give you either 50 points or 300 points. Well, you would think that if the 300 point relay is on, that as that turns, it would give you 500 points because it does it 5 times. So how did they make it not do that? It's because of the way they have it wired. So here's the switch, and so you see that the one wire comes from here, and that's the 50 point relay. If it's on, the wire is connected back here. But if it's the 300 point relay that's on, the wire is connected up here. Now why is that? It's so that it can get behind these other 2 switches. So there is a switch at motor 1B and a switch at motor 4C that are now in play. 1B and 4C. Alright, so we're going to try it again, but this time we'll act like that the 300 point relay is on. So it's using that same exact switch. So it turns off of home position, and it just gave us our first 10 points down at the bottom. About 100 points. 100 points. So we got 100 points. Okay. Then it turns again. It's our second 100 points we just got. Then it turns again. We just got 300 points. Okay, well, we can't get any more points, right? So the next 2 bumps, you don't want to count those. So the switch that is on 1B, it's hard to see. But again, these are lettered by how high they are. So A is on that cam, B is in here. You actually can't see it right now, but there is a switch down in here. You can see it from the top. It's this one. See this little metal rivet here? That is a post that hangs down inside the 2 cams. There's actually several of them. And so what's going to happen is, when that gets to, I wish I could show it to you a little easier. Oh yeah, you see it. There it is. So it's this switch right here. So when we get to position 4, watch what happens. We're rising up. We're supposed to get our 4th point, our 400th point, but look, it's opened that other switch. So since that other switch is open, the line's broken, and you don't get the 400th point. You don't get the 4th knock of the 100 point relay. So now you've just passed position 4 of the cam, of the impulse cam, but you didn't get that 4th one because they only want you to have 300. Now, and keep in mind, they decided on 300. You know, so they are taking what they have, which is the ability to score 5 times, and making it where you just score 3 times, just so they can change the number. Right? So now we've got one more we got to skip. So we're coming up on it. Oh, and look what just happened. Oh, this switch just fell into here and opened up. 4C just opened up. So because 4C opened up, when we get that 5th 100 points, it's not going to count because the switch over here is opened. So we didn't get that one either. So we only got 3. And then it gets back to home, that falls out, and it stops. Just brilliant design, but very simple design. It's not that complicated. Now, why did they use a switch over here and a switch over here? Well, it's just the way the stuff's laid out. But it shows you that it's laid out a lot more intelligently than you think. Like there's a reason that these little bars are in these positions, because it's the 4th position on the impulse. There's a reason that this switch is closed at the home position but opens up at the 5th position. Like there's a timing to everything in the machine. So it's also worth noting that they also play the game with the pop bumpers, where they're turning them on as time goes on. If it says 10 points when lit, then it's the exception to that rule is that it's 1 point when not lit, right? I love that phrase, the exception to the rule, right? So the exception to the rule that it's 10 points when lit is that it's 1 point when it's not lit. So as time goes on, it turns on more and more of those. Yeah. All right, so and those are working fine too. Let's get to the last ball. And I'm playing a 4-player game. I like to go through them and just check that everything rolls over. So, for instance, if I hit the 1 point, does it always roll over to that? If I get to 50 points, will it roll over to 1230? It will. If I get 100 points, will it roll over to the 1,000? And I like doing that on each player just to make sure all of them are doing what they're supposed to do. So on the 5th ball, it has actually lit up all of them. That one's now worth 100, 10, 10, 10. And this should be 300 now. Right on! Oh, so all I did was I just cleaned the switches. So that's the only problem. That problem probably would have fixed itself if you just played it a while. Because when the switches close, they kind of rub each other a little bit. So it would have fixed itself. One thing that's not right is that light is out, I think. Maybe not. And that light up there is out. So I'm going to change a couple light bulbs and see where we're at. Okay, so the only switch on the playfield that doesn't actually light up at the end of the game, on the 5th ball, is the second of those 2 red lights in the middle that tell you that the very targets are worth 10 times the points. Either one or the other is, and it goes back and forth with a relay named the J relay, which is the very target score control relay. Whew, makes complete sense. And the way it works is that, like most things do that go back and forth on the playfield, it uses this 0 to 9 unit. So as this thing turns around, that relay's on and then off, and it makes the switch, the light go back and forth, so that either this one is 10 times or this one is 10 times. And this is pulsed by the 10-point relay. So the whole problem was this wasn't moving because a spring had disappeared. So I put a new spring on it, and it seems to be working now, and we're ready to test play it. All right, so I replaced some light bulbs. I fixed the wiggle wag thing. I waxed the playfield a little bit to clean it up. I waxed the rubber rings. You can actually take wax, and these rubber rings, if they're not real old and dry, I mean, if they're the original ones from 1972 or whatever, they're not going to be any good. But if they were from a few years ago, if you put a little wax on them, they'll clean right up. So let's see if she plays. Couldn't quite reach it. Nice full shot on it that time. They have something designed into it. I didn't look at the schematics, but when the 0 to 9 unit
turns, one position, it moves that. But, and the 10-point relay does that. But whenever the 50-point relay should move the 10-point, the 0 to 9 unit 5 positions, it doesn't. It doesn't move it at all. So it just stays where it is if you get 50 points. But if you get exactly 10 points, it moves. Pretty cool. It actually plays pretty good for this vintage. There are plenty of people that are unable to enjoy games like this, though, that are this old, and I feel really bad for those people. Sometimes I sit up at night wondering, how bad would it be if I only enjoyed pinball machines that were worth at least $5,000? Boy, life would suck. Beat up them banks. Alright, so there we go, folks. You know what? I think that's a damn fine little old EM pinball machine. Very cool. I'm so happy to see it back, and it only needed a little bit of help. It wasn't that bad off. Now it's ready to go back to the customer so he can continue playing it and enjoying it for another 8 years. So I hope you enjoyed it, folks. We will see you on the next video. Now, if you want to see a similar vintage game to this one of these old 60s Gottliebs, check out this video.